let's talk about psyche and spirit for a moment. They're the same word. All of them come from the chapter or the verse in Genesis when it said that God breathed life into Adam. Psyche is the Greek word for breath. Spirit is the Latin word for breath. And the notion that our connection with God is based on breath. It permeates, I suppose, all of the Abrahamic traditions in Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. That's not the case with the Eastern traditions. In Buddhism, where there is no creator, that's totally by the board. And there the basis of spirituality is not the breath, and not life, but awareness, knowing. Buddhism has always been epistemological, and the purpose of Buddhist practice is to know experience completely. So we have no comparable basis in Western thinking, which makes translation an interesting problem. The difference between spiritual practice and psychotherapy. Well, that's a difficult question to answer because spiritual practice covers such a wide range of behaviors and disciplines and so forth. And psychotherapy is not exactly a unit. You have many different schools of psychotherapy with quite different models or views of the human. You have the Freudian drive-driven, drive-based system, and Jungian stuff, and rational, emotive, and behavioral, and so forth and so forth. In general, however, I would say that most people regard psychotherapy as a way of working on a problem. Or it's based. Even today, it's still more or less based on the medical model. And, though there are plenty of therapists who don't approach things that way. And while medicine is often being used as a metaphor for Buddhist practice, it's not really what it's about. I think one way to think about it is the difference between assuaging pain and waking up. And that's sometimes an exercise I give students. You know, if you go into this situation and you try to assuage pain, what do you do? And people they get quite confused because there's everybody to consider, oneself and another person, and balancing all of that, and how do you do that? And then a third party shows up and it gets all very complicated, and you're worrying about, am I reinforcing this pattern in myself, or am I breaking free of it, etc., etc. But if you ask the question, if you were totally awake in this situation, what would you do? Things become very clear very quickly. And I would say that the purpose of spiritual practice, at least in Buddhist practice, and the teacher-student relationship, is to cultivate being awake. It's not to heal or cure or whatever. It's to be awake. Which means, and this is very important, being awake means you're capable and willing to experience whatever arises. So another way of talking about it is the willingness to, or the ability to experience whatever arises. Anger arises, you can experience it. You don't have to dump it on somebody else. sadness arises, you can experience it. You don't have to find somebody to comfort you. You may choose to, but you don't have to. Because you have the capacity to experience it completely and know what it is.